Hello, everybody. Happy Monday in whatever way this Monday is finding you. Today, I really want to talk about an aspect of training that gets ignored too often. And it usually only becomes a priority when things are really, really tough. And I want to advocate for attending to it before you feel like you need it, right? There's a time for painkillers and there's a time for vitamins. And the ideal is that you don't need the painkillers as much when you're using the vitamins regularly. I mean that as a metaphor in this case. So I got into endurance training and then coaching after I was trained in mental health as an occupational therapist. And I'm trained in a variety of mental health modalities, including mindfulness-based stress reduction, acceptance and commitment therapy, or ACT, and organic intelligence. And I have found using those skills for myself when I'm training, when I'm preparing for a race, when I'm in the middle or the end of a really tough race season, when I'm in the middle of a race, right? Using some of those skills has really, really helped me. And I found that it's really helped and supported my clients that I coach as well. And that you don't need to think about mindfulness or mental health or emotional health when things are really, really bad. You don't have to wait. You can focus on the vitamins before you have to worry about the painkillers. And look, we all live complex lives. Things happen. There are times for painkillers. But if you think about a practice as being able to reduce your need for the really intense painkiller work, or if you think of it like a bank account, that you're putting some regular deposits into your emotional and mental health bank account, that when you're dealing with things that are going to be a big withdrawal from that bank account, you've already set up some padding there, some savings there, right? And I really want to highlight, there are certain kinds of mental health practices that are well marketed, right? It's kind of like if people think about relaxation and being active, but maybe in a recovery sense, immediately I think what comes to mind for a lot of people is yoga. And yoga is an option. And yoga is one option. So if you've gone to a yoga class and you're like, meh, I didn't really enjoy it, maybe the class wasn't right for you, but also there could be other things you can do as well that are going to get the same benefits, but they might fit for you better. Similarly, some people think about mental health or mindfulness and they will immediately think of meditation. And then a lot of people go, oh my God, sitting still and not having thoughts. And that's not what meditation is anyway, but go, that's not for me. There are so many practices that you can do. And that some practices take time, a lot of time. Some practices can be really, really quick. The key is that you practice them. The key is that you integrate things that work for you regularly into your routine, just as you would with your physical training, making the mental training side also part of that training schedule or training practice is so vital. And often we are so focused on what the body can do or challenging the body that we're completely neglecting the mind. And people will think things like mind over matter or just pushing through, and that can work to a point. But then again, people find it doesn't work anymore. What do I do? Our mental health can also be impacted by things like sleep and diet. Other physical conditions like thyroid, right? And that we can, if we think of stress as stress, whether that's physical stress or mental stress, right? That there can be a point where there's just a finite amount that we can handle and then we're done. So how can you reduce some of the mental health load in aspects of your life, and also be able to open up greater bandwidth, be able to have higher thresholds, higher tolerance for some of the intensity that inevitably comes if you have drive, if you are doing an endurance sport, or you are an artist, or you are really driven in entrepreneurial endeavors, or in your corporate life, or, right? So it's so key to tend to that. And I also, I feel like some of the kind of bro culture or Silicon Valley culture has impacted this as well. I'm not talking about the idea of hacks, right? I'm actually talking about the idea of tuning in and working with and understanding that there is not a separation between the brain and the body, that this is all one. And so by working through different channels, different approaches, you are creating physiological benefit for yourself. Again, it doesn't necessarily mean sitting still. You can have a mental health practice that involves movement. You could have a mental health practice that is very, very different to what you might assume it would look like. You might also make therapy sessions or work with a psychiatrist or medication part of that mental health support as well. So this to me is such a key, because I see athletes who are doing all the right things, or artists who are doing all the right things, and something is happening that's impacting the body, and it has to do with mental health. And if that is not being tended to, it has the capacity to impact other areas of your life. And the thing is that mental health is very different to having a visible injury. So it's so tricky sometimes, because it can be a situation that mounts and mounts and mounts, and we're not noticing until things really fall apart. And so making a regular mental health practice for yourself can also be a way to reduce that load over time, so that it's not building until you break. I was talking to somebody recently who had anxiety about getting a diagnosis for a physical condition that he had, and about taking some medication that was prescribed to him for this physical condition, because he felt it was a sign of weakness. Now, I can tell you, very few of us get through this life without some kind of a condition, some kind of a chronic illness, for example. And finding support, coaching, mentorship, finding people to add to your team, taking medication or having a medical intervention, or at least even having a diagnosis, those are not signs of weakness. Those are about equipping yourself to be the best that you can be, to show up for what matters and who matters in your life, and that includes yourself. And it means eradicating, overcoming, or minimizing barriers that could stand in between you and what you are capable of. So I hope that you will consider and reflect on the mental health practices that you may be doing or overlooking, and what you think that you could add to help you to put a deposit in that mental health bank account. I also am always available for coaching sessions, even specifically on the emotional mental health side of things. And I also have some recordings in my store to help you to benefit actors, dancers, athletes, people for whom performance is really important, and who may have an unusual stress load that can impact mental health. And so working through the physiology can really help. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye.